Will you do a video with me? It's a lot more fun with you here. I'll move over a little bit. Hi everyone, welcome to Rachel's Studio, and in today's tutorial I want to tell you about the 10 paint colors that I use almost exclusively, but there's actually only 4 or 5 paint colors that I use in almost every single painting, and then a total of 10 that I use for 99.9% of all the paintings I do. So you will see me demonstrating these paint colors in footage, my real-time footage that I make for my online students. So if you are interested in watching any of those tutorials that you see in this video, be sure to go check out my Patreon and join me on my artistic journey. We have a lot of fun over there. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started and look at these beautiful paint colors that I cannot live without. Okay, one thing you will notice I do not put on my palette is my white gouache, because one, I don't want to use a lot of it, and for the most part I only use it maybe to do whiskers and to fix mistakes. And also this is like chalk. It's like paint chalk. So if you mix this on your palette, it will ruin all the other colors and turn them into chalk. You don't want to mix these together unless for some reason you want to make a colored chalk. And then that takes away from the beauty of the transparency of watercolor. So try not to get this mixed in with your paint. Okay, so let's put these colors on and talk a little bit about them. This is Naphthol Red by M. Graham. As far as I know, M. Graham is one of the only, if only, manufacturers that uses the pigment that is in this particular red. I learned about this on handprint.com. It's a nice pure red, and it mixes equally well with yellow and blue. I don't believe in the mixed primary palette where you have a cool red and a warm red and a cool yellow and a warm yellow. That's just confusing. You only need 3 primary colors. But say you want to cool down this yellow, mix it with a little blue. If you want to warm up this yellow, mix it with a little red. If you want to read more about color theory and split primary palette, which I don't believe in, one of the reasons why I don't is just my own experience. And then when I read a very long article about it on handprint.com, I was convinced that it was just pretty much rubbish and not necessarily and overly confusing and complicating when it doesn't need to be. What you need to do is mix your colors and see what looks beautiful together. And then you know what looks good. To avoid mud, use the colors you know work well together. These colors work great together. All right, so this is Holbein Aureolin. It mixes equally well with red and blue. It makes a beautiful green. It makes a beautiful orange. You don't need a warm yellow to make beautiful skin tones with another warm red. You don't need that. You just need to mix these 2 colors and you'll be a happy artist. Okay, another color I just love that is a convenience mix that I rarely use, but I paint so many cat's eyes. Winsor Green Gold by Winsor & Newton. It makes a beautiful eye color. It also would be great in landscapes if I did more landscapes. It's a kind of complicated color where it kind of has nuances of yellows and blues in it. So it just dries in the most beautiful way. It's hard to explain, but try it. Then another convenience mix which I rarely use those, Permanent Green Light. You can't beat this convenience mix because it makes that vibrating young green color that's so hard to mix. Now you can mix a vibrating young green using lemon yellow. Lemon yellow with a cobalt makes a very bright green similar to this color. But this color is so great, and it's a little chalky. So when you put this on top of an underlying eye color like these 2 colors, it looks beautiful because it sits on top. It's not as transparent. It's more of an opaque color, and a touch of that is really pretty because you can put it on top of other colors and it will show up beautifully. And then we have Cobalt Blue here. I don't use Cobalt Blue enough. I love it. It's beautiful. It has this beautiful flocculating or granulating look when it dries. It has a very gorgeous, sophisticated look. It's just such a pretty color. It's beautiful as a lighter blue. When you're not wanting to mix darks, this is a great color to use. I don't use it enough. I put it on my palette to try to help me use it more. And then my old standby blue mixes beautifully with yellow. Oh gosh, it makes the most beautiful granulated out greens. And mixed with blue, it looks fine as a purple, but I love this purple because it's so strong, this Winsor Violet. But it mixes equally well with reds and yellows. You don't need a cool blue and a warm blue for sure. If you have this, it's a pretty pure primary, not leaning warm or cool one way or the other. It granulates out beautifully, so it has a beautiful texture. So I love that. The only thing about French ultramarine is it doesn't cauliflower well. So if you want a cauliflowering blue, you can have an indigo on your palette, or a phthalo, which I don't like phthalos because they're too staining and I can't use my lifting techniques I use in each and every one of my paintings. And now this is going into buckling. I'm going to do a few of my splats to up the dreaminess factor, and I'm going to let that dry. And then the other good thing about French ultramarine is when you mix it with burnt sienna, it makes a really rich, dark black. You can get really dark mixes with this ultramarine. You can get even darker mixes with this Indanthrone blue and mix it with permanent brown, phthalo green. That's the synthetic black mix I learned also on handprint, and I've got some videos. I'll link here if I can find that video where I talk about my synthetic black mix, and Indanthrone blue is one of the colors for that. I put it on my palette, one, so that if I don't want a blue that granulates, because these are both granulating, cobalt and ultramarine, and so I need an alternative in the rare case where I don't want granulation, maybe like in a skin tone or something, or super dark background. I'll use Indanthrone blue and mix it with permanent brown, but those are staining, so I rarely use this, but I'm going to put it on my palette so I have an alternative non-granulating blue. Then I use my Winsor & Newton violet a lot to add sparkle. Purple, pure purple, just dashes of it here and there, just add a cool sparkle to a painting. I just recently used it in my most recently finished painting to vibrate with the orange. Be sure to check out my whole video about vibrating color. And basically what it is complementary colors make each other vibrate. So if you have an orange tabby cat, for example, and you want that orange fur to really like be wow, put little tiny touches of purple throughout other parts of your painting and it will vibrate with that orange beautifully. And purple just vibrates beautifully with so many colors for whatever reason. It's like a magic color. I don't know what it is. Just adding a touch of it here and there to most paintings I think is so pretty. Like landscapes painted with a lot of green with a little purple in it. Oh gosh, it's so pretty. Lamp black, I've talked about it in my hack video about how very, very special this paint is to me, how it makes amazing special fur textures, unlike any other black I've found. The other special thing about Daniel Smith, specifically lamp black mix, is that it has less of a drying shift, so it stays dark even after it dries. Paints have drying shifts, which mean they get grayer and lighter as they dry, especially in watercolor. And lamp black has the least drying shift that I've found. Plus, it has that most amazing fur effect, fur out effect, I call it. Check out my chick video. I will link it above to see what I'm talking about. It's so cool. It's so cool. Okay, let me not geek out on that though. Okay, so next is burnt sienna. This is a staple. I use it so much because I am an animal painter, and there's lots of this mixed with French ultramarine will make 90% of the fur colors out there. Or this mixed with aureolin for, like, say, a golden retriever color will make so many great fur colors because it is considered an earth pigment or an earth color. What's an earth color? Well, they tend to be more sedimentary, heavy, so they granulate out. This mixed with this makes gorgeous granulation with ultramarine. And also when it's an earth color like burnt umber, cerulean blue, burnt sienna, the ochres, those are all considered earth pigments in watercolor because they will slightly gray down anything you mix with it. So I almost always gray down my colors a little bit to make them more natural looking when I'm painting animals especially, and that's also useful in landscapes. So this is great for landscape painters too, for bark and trees, and add a little bit of it to your green even to make your green look more natural. And I use it in almost every single painting, whether it's human hair, the shadows and skin tones, fur colors to mix with usually ultramarine blue or yellow. Then Holbein aureolin is another beautiful primary. Some aureolins on the market are made with a different pigment that is not archival. It will fade. This one is made with a different pigment, and I will have to look it up. But Holbein, specifically Holbein Aureolin brand, it's not fugitive. It will not fade. And this Aureolin doesn't lean much cool or warm. It's just almost like a pure primary, and it mixes gorgeous with, oh my gosh, the greens you can mix with this with ultramarine are beautiful. The glowing, perfect oranges that you can mix with the naphthol red, like my newest marmalade tabby cat painting, it's just beautiful. So this makes a great pure orange mix. You don't need much more in your life than, for me, I don't need much more in my life than these colors. And I love them because they're non-staining. Some of them are granulating to add beautiful effects. It works well with the scrubbing technique that I so frequently used. I've talked about in so many of my videos how I love scrubbers. Since they're sitting right here, I can show you my scrubbers. I scrub a ton. I use lifting techniques a ton with stencils and magic erasers, all those techniques that I've talked about recently in the last year of my videos, all require good watercolor paper and non-staining paint. The most staining paint probably here is the naphthol red, but it's the least staining red that I've found. Most reds are so staining, and it is staining, but it's less staining. I don't know about cadmium red. Y'all leave me a comment if you can think of a red that's less staining. This Windsor violet is also fairly staining. The lamp black is a little staining, but not bad. You can still scrub it back really nicely. And the rest of these scrub beautifully. The burnt sienna and the French ultramarine are so great for scrubbing. Indanthrone blue, that's actually pretty staining, I do believe. Don't get these big, huge sets of all these colors. You'll just confuse yourself. Just get these colors and learn to mix, and it's not hard. And then you can get subtle, beautiful, sophisticated, nuanced color mixes that you can't use if you just use paint straight from the tube anyway. So I highly recommend these. Thank you so much for joining me on this tutorial. I do hope you'll go check out my Patreon. Be sure to like and subscribe, leave me a comment, and I hope to see you all real soon. Now go watercolor your world. Bye, everybody.